Hey there, metalheads and gamers. This is MetalVania once again. Keeping it metal and keeping it gaming.
Excellent!
Yeah!
Rock and roll!
Mortal Kombat, the brutally violent martial arts video game series that we have all come to know and love. The game was released October 8th of 1982, and its violence and almost pretty realistic look at the time was met with a crap ton of controversy. Parents were just outraged by this craziness that there were kids in love with this game in the arcades. I remember how much I was in love with it growing up going to the arcades with my older brother. It was one of the arcade cabinets at the time that really just had like the longest line of people waiting to play it. With its success, it was released for home consoles. The thing that made Mortal Kombat stand out compared to all other fighting games was not just the violence, but the insane fatalities that you were able to perform. From ripping your opponent's heart out, or tearing their heads off, impaling on spikes, etc. With the success of the first game, of course there had to be a sequel, which came out April of 1993, a year later. With the success of the games, of course, there needed to be a movie, which we got August 18th of 1995, which hardcore fans everywhere, including myself and my older brother, went to attend. The film was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, who we know as the man who directed the terrible film adaptations of the Resident Evil game series. Well, kudos to him for trying, but every last one of them were a complete failure. Awful, awful, I hated them. But that's another video to make. The movie starred Christopher Lambert as Raiden, Robin Shou as Liu Kang, Cary Tagawa as Shang Tsung, Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage, and Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade. Now, I remember going to see this movie in the theaters as I was a kid with my cousin Richard and my older brother Travis. Now, I remember vividly, it seems like it was only yesterday, going to see this movie in the theaters, and there was literally a line around the block. People and just hardcore Mortal Kombat fans everywhere dying to see this movie. We actually already had tickets that we picked up the day before. And plus we actually showed up just so we could get a great seat, because we knew that that theater was going to be completely packed. And after a while, when we went to the very first showing that day when it came out, after a while after we got our great seats, boy, we were right. Every single seat after another just got completely taken. It was insane. Even the front row was taken, and we all know that nobody likes the front row. I mean, nobody likes it. But nobody cared. That's how much people really wanted to see this movie. I mean, it was nuts. It was completely nuts. But sadly, the movie got very mixed reviews. And I didn't understand why. I still don't get why. Most people hated it and still hate it to this day, but myself and my cousin Richard and my older brother Travis, we were actually very satisfied with the movie, despite it being fatality-less. Now, I agree with everybody that the fatalities are really the core of the Mortal Kombat series, but, you know, I can understand why it was Hollywood's intention to make it PG-13 and to leave the brutally gory fatalities out, because there were actually a lot of kids, more of them than you think, that were actually allowed to play the Mortal Kombat series in the arcade and in their very own homes with their game consoles. So of course they're going to pander to kids as well, because I don't think that the movie would have became as successful as it was. I mean, sure, there were a lot of people that hated it, but all the money that it made, I don't think it ever would have done that in the first place if they had limited the audience. But aside from the fact of it being fatality-less, look, you cannot deny the fact that it is in fact the closest and best video game adaptation out there. It's literally the best movie based on a video game ever. I think it is. I mean, they did a better job with the Mortal Kombat movie in 1995 than they did with any of the previous movies, from the Super Mario Brothers movie and Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the sequel after that, which we all can agree was absolutely terrible. And gosh, I don't want to review that. Please don't make me review that. And also the Resident Evil series, which I already mentioned. So in conclusion, is the Mortal Kombat movie really that bad? Well, at this point, with everything I've said, you guys probably know the answer. No. No, it isn't that bad. Yeah. I get it. But just hear me out, okay? Please hear me out on this. The movie is extremely fast and entertaining throughout, so it never gets boring. The effects in this movie are good and bad. For example, Goro. Goro looks insane. He just looks absolutely amazing. Those practical effects are incredible. It's a guy in a puppeteer costume. So, that to me is great filmmaking right there. That's great effects. Better than CGI. Practical effects are also, they're just more effective. And the makeup for Kano is cheesy, but really cool looking at the same time. And it looks pretty good, just like the game. And then there's the fight scenes, which are incredibly entertaining, really good, well choreographed. Johnny Cage fighting Scorpion, which is literally my favorite fight throughout the whole entire movie. Then there's Liu Kang versus Scorpion, etc. I mean, you actually can feel how much effort was put into choreographing these fight scenes. Sure, at some point in a couple of the fight scenes, it's obvious that they're jumping in midair by wires. Cheesy, I know, but hey, that's what we still use today. Even today, people can tell if wires were used or not when the character is jumping, or if it was CGI. Which brings me to the downs of this movie. The CGI is pretty bad. It's pretty cheesy even for that time. I mean, the CGI for Reptile is pretty... Look at that, that's pretty bad. But at the same time, it is kind of cool looking. Especially Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat 2. Yeah, that's pretty crappy looking, but it's still incredibly entertaining. Now again, I agree with everyone. It does suck that there's no fatalities whatsoever in the Mortal Kombat movie. But again, Hollywood couldn't limit the audience. They wanted to pander to all ages, because all ages were enjoying this game. But you know what? It's brutal enough for me, and it's metal. I mean, you got Hot Sonya and her fine legs stamping Kano's neck. You got the top of Scorpion's neck being severed and then exploding into pieces, which of course, again, is literally my favorite fight scene through that whole entire thing. That to me is the most brutal and really the most graphic fight throughout the whole entire thing. I think that's the closest that we ever really got, when it comes to fatalities. Then you got stuff like being impaled on spikes even though there's no blood. So again, it's brutal enough for me. I think it's good enough. And it's really exactly like the game other than that, you gotta admit. Plus today, if there was another Mortal Kombat movie coming out, I mean like actually changing it to where it was in fact rated R, despite limiting audiences and all that stuff, I do believe it would be rated R and just over the top gory and just graphic with the fatalities, just insanely bloody and all that stuff. I really think that that's how they would do it today. And we would all be incredibly satisfied. Plus kids could go to see it if they wanted to, but they would need either their parents to take them to see it or an older sibling. Anyway, for me, this is the best video game-based movie ever. It's really the only one that really did any video game justice. Well, except for Silent Hill. I mean, those movies were excellent, at least in my opinion. So what do you guys think? Do you like this movie? Are you satisfied with it? Is it the best video game-based movie that you've ever seen? Do you think it's close enough to doing a video game justice? Let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, hope you guys have enjoyed this. This has been MetalVania. Keep it metal and keep on gaming. Hey, you there! Yeah, you! That's been watching the video this whole time. I know you're gonna want to hit that subscribe button for more great videos I'm gonna make, so do it! You know you want to.